What's up guys, Starlink here. And if any of you guys watched my last video, then you probably saw this one coming. But today, we're going to talk about how beautiful this game called Ghost of Tsushima truly is. I mean, seriously, if you guys have had any doubts in picking up this game before, just stop what you're doing right now, stop watching this video, go pick it up and actually play it, because you won't be disappointed. And long story short, it's fantastic. Ghost of Tsushima is a game that I went from literally zero interest in to a must-have title the more I saw of it. I've only ever played one game by Sucker Punch before, with that being the original Sly Cooper on PS2. Never even touched the infamous games either, but I've always heard good things about them. Something drew me in with Ghost of Tsushima and its setting, however. I mean, who wouldn't want to explore a beautiful open world set in feudal Japan as a samurai? This is the story of Jin, whom after knocking on death's door, chooses to step away from his honorable traditions as a samurai to utilize more ninja-like tactics to take out his enemies, rescue his uncle, and free the land of Tsushima from the Mongol invaders. Now one would assume that this is just another open world game sprinkled with some Assassin's Creed elements here, and for the most part, you'd be right. For me personally, however, it delves a little bit deeper than that depiction. For one, the combat in Ghost feels a little more strategic and refined. You can't just hack away at your enemy to come out on top here. You have to keep your guard up and parry the enemy while also breaking their own defense to stagger them and leave them open to attack. You have 4 different combat stances that you will switch between on the fly to suit your needs, that being the stone, wave, wind, and moon stance. Certain stances are more effective against specific enemy types like swordsmen, shieldmen, spearmen, and brutes. While you can use any one stance to take these guys down, utilizing them effectively can break the enemy's guard and stagger them much quicker to deal more damage, so it's best to take advantage of this when you can. The same thing can be said about the game's various outfits that you'll stumble across as well. In the middle of a fight with a large group of enemies, then it's probably best to switch to the samurai armor so you can take full advantage of the given situation. Feel like exploring the map gathering collectibles? Then you'll probably want to switch to the traveler's attire to make your life a little easier. You also have these duels, which kinda act like this game's version of a boss fight essentially. They are an interesting way of breaking up the traditional way of combat, giving you a more epic showdown with the enemy, and they can be fun to watch too. You can choose to make your presence known to a group of enemies by having a showdown with their strongest warrior, or you can do the more stealthy approach and take them out by surprise. You have an assortment of tools at your disposal here which can make just about any encounter a breeze. See a large group of enemies clustered nearby that you don't feel like charging headfirst into? Throw a firecracker to gather them all up and distract them, and then just throw a well-placed explosive in the middle of that mess. Then take out any stragglers that manage to survive. Feel a little bit overwhelmed in a fight? Throw down a smoke bomb to escape and continue to take out your enemies one by one silently. With these choices in play and being an honorable samurai or a dishonorable ghost/shinobi, you think there would be a morality system at play here, but thankfully there isn't, so you can just go to town with whatever method that you please with 0 penalty, which is music to my ears as I've never cared much for morality systems within games personally. You have your big world map to explore and do side activities in, skill trees to gain new samurai and ghost abilities, the works. The menus are clean and organized, so it's easy to navigate through, which is always a nice thing to find. One thing that I really liked about this game though is its load times. They are some of the quickest I've ever seen in an open world game on a console. Not seamless of course, but pretty impressive considering the size of the game and the fact that I'm only using a standard hard disk drive. Another nice feature that I enjoy is that this game takes full advantage of the DualShock 4 controller's features. The touchpad in particular is utilized well here. You can swipe up to make the wind blow to lead you to your tracked objectives, swipe left to use your flute to change the weather, swipe down to do a bow animation, and swipe right to seat your blade manually. I've never really been a fan of touch controls of any kind, but these ones work well enough and you can adjust to them fairly quickly. Controller vibration is used effectively as well, being used to signify hard landings and such, found typically in many games. By far the best use of it, however, is for locating items. When you wear the traveler's gear, the controller will vibrate when there is a collectible nearby, getting more furious the closer you get to it. There's also a little firefly that floats around and guides you to the collectible that lights up, coinciding with the vibrations in your controller, which is a nice touch. Hell, even the speaker on the controller gets some minor use every now and then by hearing the wind blowing through it. These features aren't necessary, sure, but are a nice touch to help remind you of some of the exclusive features that the DualShock 4 has that hardly ever been used in games. Ghost of Tsushima reminded me that both the touchpad and the speaker do in fact exist. Not everything is perfect, however, and I do have a couple minor gripes with Ghost of Tsushima. The biggest thing that really bugged me was the fact that you didn't have direct control over your camera's zoom levels while playing. They're fixed. They work for the most part, but there was plenty of times where I thought the camera was zoomed in way too close behind Jin to the point that it felt claustrophobic and it was hard to look around for items of interest. They should have added in the ability to pull back the camera manually so you can adjust and explore your surroundings easier. As is common with open world games of this kind, there are plenty of bugs to find as well, but nothing too serious. One odd bug of note here though is one that happened when I tried to leave an area after completing a mission. The game thought I was still in the mission for some reason, so I couldn't fast travel and it would start the mission failure countdown timer if I tried to leave. I just had to let the timer run its course and load me back in to have everything go back to normal. Not a huge deal, but it was kinda weird is all. One of the things that I enjoy most about open world games is taking my sweet ass time exploring every inch of its world and taking in the sights, and Ghost of Tsushima is no different. It has some of the most breathtaking landscapes that I've ever had the pleasure of exploring. I have a thing for moving foliage, and there's plenty of that found here for sure. There are also some impressive weather animations at play here, with some beautiful scenery to match. From dawn to dusk, stormy weather or pleasant, the islands of Tsushima is a sight to behold. I'm particularly fond of the game's sunsets, which look amazing. A problem many big games like this have, particularly on consoles, is texture pop-in contributed to not loading them in fast enough, which can break immersion. I haven't discovered much of that in Ghost of Tsushima, however. I'm sure it's still there somewhere, but it's matched so well here that I haven't noticed anything so far, and that's impressive, especially considering how great the draw distance is as well. The fluid motion of combat animations look fantastic with blood splattering as you strike enemies. I particularly enjoy seeing seething animations within games, and Jin does some cool ones with his katana, like flinging the blood off of his blade or wiping it clean off on his sleeve. I just love seeing little details like this. I also like the fact that you can utilize the wind to guide yourself to objectives within the game. It's a nice added element that only helps immerse you in the beauty of the game's world that much more. Speaking of which, I really enjoyed seeing the interaction between Jin and his horse found throughout the game. Now, depending on your choices that you make at the beginning of the game, you'll have an option between 3 different horses and a name that you can pick. I chose a black horse and named it Kage, meaning shadow. Throughout the game, you'll hear Jin complimenting him, calling him a good horse and such, but you'll also occasionally see scenes of Jin like sleeping against him on the ground and then nudging him in the stomach to wake him up. And I absolutely love seeing scenes like this because it shows that Jin cares about his horse like it's a friend versus being just a means of transportation. It gives me a lot of those Shadow of the Colossus vibes, not gonna lie. Now, I've never really used photo mode within games much before, but I found myself stopping numerous times within Ghost of Tsushima, enjoying the sights and taking pics where I could. The world is a sight to behold, and various haiku spots you stumble across on the map do a great job of highlighting this, giving you a headband for doing so. Hell, I have some pretty scenic views just outside. I should try my hand at some of this haiku stuff. Rising from the shallows, a sturdy defense, whispers ahead.
Awesome, a new mask!
Now, there's not so much in the way of music found in Ghost of Tsushima. Music picks up inside of combat, but not much else outside of that. What few tunes you do hear, however, are nice and fit the setting of the game well. As is common practice of open world games, Ghost of Tsushima is more about the sound and atmosphere of your surroundings more than anything else. The rustling of the trees and the flowers, to the flowing rivers and the falling leaves blowing in the wind. The world is simply breathtaking to see and listen to from every angle. A neat feature that was announced via a GameSpot article was that depending on your actions, the weather will change accordingly. Choosing to fight your enemies head-on like a samurai will result in more pleasant weather, while killing enemies silently with more ghost-like tactics will result in stormy weather, which is a nice touch. Now it makes sense why the thunder and lightning is always raging while I'm playing. I always go for the more stealthy approach to taking out enemies personally. Luckily, you can change the weather at will by playing your flute if it really bugs you that much. I enjoy the stormy weather though, as it looks and sounds pretty great.
Death himself is coming for our enemies.
Honestly, I could go on and on about how much I enjoy playing Ghost of Tsushima, but I'd probably just bore you guys to death. The main point I'm trying to get across here though is that if you enjoy playing open world games for not just their combat, but for their exploration and atmosphere as well, there's a lot to love about this game and it truly deserves your attention. Ghost of Tsushima turned out to be quite the pleasant surprise and is a worthy contender for Game of the Year in my book. Plus, it has foxes. Everybody loves foxes, right? You know, I was thinking, this game's already pretty great, right? But you know what would make it even better? Is if they had a collaboration DLC with both Sucker Punch and Square Enix where you could actually obtain Sephiroth's sword, the Masamune. I mean, if you think about it, yeah, it sounds crazy, right? But it would actually fit the setting of this game really well because the Masamune is a katana. And they could actually have it where you do a mythic tale in the game where you go searching for the Masamune and you end up having a confrontation with Sephiroth himself. Now I know that he couldn't do like some of his flashy moves and all that crap that's, you know, unrealistic that you see in Final Fantasy VII. They had to be a more realistic duel that you see in the game, but I think it could work. It'd be pretty cool. And I know it's not gonna be everybody's cup of tea, it's just like throwing stuff way out there, but to me personally, it'd be pretty damn awesome and I'd be all for it. But who am I kidding, right? This game is already great just for the sole fact that you can interact with the foxes. I mean, seriously, I would have been sorely disappointed if I could not pet these little guys. I mean, they're adorable. But regardless, guys, that's all I got for you today. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to drop a like, or dislike if you didn't. And as always, I want to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Reach for the stars.